I'm Paulina Adamari Sise.
And I'm Alice Esther Yamasita Sise.
We're going to give a short poem relating to FGM in our communities and the world as a whole.
FGM in Sierra Leone.
FGM in Guinea.
FGM in Liberia.
FGM in 25 countries in Africa. FGM everywhere in the world. What about it? FGM is an old tradition.
It removes the female genital organ for non-medical reasons.
Who practices it? How is it done? Why is it practiced? Well, FGM is practiced by every tribe in Sierra Leone except the Creoles. It is practiced by politicians, nurses, teachers, pastors, and imams.
It removes the clitoris, the inner lips, the outer lips, and stitches the vagina.
It is done by using blades, knives, scissors, and broken bottles.
Yes, FGM is practiced for hygiene, for fertility, for reducing female sexual urge, for marriageability, and for good behavior.
Are you sure FGM is good for girls? No, not at all. FGM is dangerous.
It causes excessive bleeding, anemia, tetanus, and death.
Labor complications, keloid scar, and HIV and AIDS.
Teenage pregnancy, early marriage, school dropouts, and reduced sexual urge.
But should girls continue to suffer? No, not at all. Yes, for too long, girls have suffered in silence.
Hello again. We are continuing with our series. This is the second series of the questions with Reverend Moses Khanu, who has been advocating against FGM in Sierra Leone for the past 20 years. This time around, we are going to be looking at the work that he's doing within the church, as he had mentioned previously, that he's doing some work with the church in terms of engaging men, as well as under other sectors of the community. Reverend Moses, maybe in short, can you elaborate to us how have you exactly introduced FGM campaigns in the church? What have you been doing? Just briefly, thank you.
Yes, I've been working on FGM in my church for the past 20 years. And it all started with a strategy that I designed, known as the Community Education Campaign Against Female Genital Mutilation. As most of you know, that FGM is short a cultural sensitive issue, so a work on it need a kind of strategy that will guide the process. And so in the church, I was able to design that kind of strategy. And in the strategy, I identified key stakeholders in the practice of FGM. And these stakeholders include traditional and political leaders, the Sowes, the parent, the girls who have received FGM, and those who have not received. Of course, when we talk about the parent, we also talk about the male parent as well. And so when the stakeholders were identified, I was able to develop key messages drawn from biblical references to address the various stakeholders. And so when the messages were developed in a book, I was able to set out to do the implementation part of the strategy, which has to do with the sensitization activities. And in that area, we also targeted various groups. At this stage, it was difficult for us to bring together all of them, but we target each of the stakeholders mentioned above. And so this is how we were able to engage, for example, the Sowes, the traditional leaders, the political leaders, girls who have received FGM and those who have not, and also their parent.
So Reverend Moses, I see that you've been working really hard to making sure that FGM campaign is enrolling for all these years. I'm interested because you said you design a community education campaign or in the strategy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like you mentioned that it also includes families and so on. Maybe can you tell us, because I think family is at the center of FGM, and how does it affect the family? Please go ahead.
Yes, female FGM is a social issue, but it all begins with self, with the individual, the family, the community, and the nation as a whole. And so the family is very important in the issue on FGM. And so what I did, or what I have been doing, is first of all to create an awareness among individuals who can take that message to the family. And FGM critically affects the family. So key message to the campaign against FGM is to help individuals and family members discover the functions of the female genital organs. The female genital organs, these are the sex and reproductive organs. And these are the organs that are being removed in the practice of FGM. And when this is done, it will reduce the sexual urge for women, and also it will reduce their sexual performance. And when this happens, you will always have problems, sexual problems in the home. And in most cases, women do not even know what is causing them the sexual problem. And sometimes they will tend to blame their spouses or their partners. And this kind of situation, when it continues in the home, it can lead to marital strife, leading to problems such as separations and divorce. And in some cases, marital rape can occur, where the woman persistently refuses her husband of sex. And when this continue very seriously, and where divorce might not be the case, the husband is free to take a second or third or even a fourth wife, as the case may be. So as a strategy, our most important focus is the individual and the family, how FGM affect the individual and also the family.
Great. Thank you, Reverend Moses. And I think you mentioned something that is very important, the family, and also the problems that occur as a result of FGM. I think these are some of the things that we don't get to hear more. And I guess because you are also a marital counselor, these are the issues that you deal with a lot, as you have mentioned in our conversations outside this platform. Maybe my follow-up question, Reverend Moses, would be to talk about the key stakeholders that you mentioned. You mentioned the SOWEs being the traditional midwives, the ones who are actually performing FGM, as well as political leaders. We know that FGM, even in my own study, when I was doing my research, I learned that FGM is a political tool that is used. So, like, can you tell me more about how your activities with SOWEs who feel? I think in one of the workshops that you had, I was actually there, where you had an incident where SOWEs wouldn't communicate with you because they said you are a man. So just take us through, like, briefly how it normally works with the SOWEs and the political leaders, and maybe just indicate how it works there. Thank you.
Yes, I have worked with various people in the campaign to end FGM, including the political leaders and the Sowes. Of course, like you mentioned, FGM is a political tool here in Sierra Leone. The traditional leaders, who are the paramount chiefs, serve as custodians. And of course, the parliamentarians also are deeply interested in the practice of FGM. And so if we are to eradicate FGM, we need to work with the political leaders at local and also at national level. And so with the traditional leaders, I was able to engage them from the village chiefs, section chiefs, and also onto the level of paramount chiefs. During this period, I was able to get few people, traditional leaders, who saw the reason why this would make reforms on the issue of FGM. And at the national level, at the political level also, I was able to engage with councillors who operate at the local level and also some parliamentarians. Of course, we are still moving in the campaign to reach parliament. And so now at our community engagement, we are trying to seek the support of the councillors and also the parliamentarians. But again, working with the Sowes, these are the midwives who practice the FGM. And so they are also very important. Like you mentioned, in the first year of my work, it was really tough for me to get the cooperation of the Sowes. But again, with more familiarization on how we can go about it, in the second, third years and the other years following, I was able to get the cooperation of the Sowes to work with me. I remember I went to a particular community, and the first question I asked, are you comfortable working with me as a man in this particular program or in this particular workshop? And of course, one of the responses they made, two responses they made. One, that the respected religious leaders. And apart from that also, the woman, one of them said, what is it again that is a secret? There's nothing we know that you do not know. So they are comfortable listening to whatever I will tell them. And so this is how it all started. Indeed, it was not easy with the Sowes. Sometimes when I go to a particular community, I will have a very serious backlash. But again, I'm so cautious, I'm so respectful of their own culture. And so that is how they were able to receive me. And today I can say there is no part in the country where I will go where Sowes will not receive me and will not listen to whatever FGM message I will want to communicate to them.
Thank you, Reverend Moses, for that account. I can imagine how challenging it must be, especially with the backlash, which will then lead to my next question. Why is it important for a church or other religious institution to be involved in the eradication of FGM?
It is important for the church to be involved in the eradication of FGM for many reasons. I can say ending FGM is the mandate of the church. The church is called to speak for or on behalf of people who suffer injustice. And it is not a secret that FGM is a gender and social issue that has to do with poor health, violence, discrimination, and poverty. And so all of these are issues the church should be able to address. FGM seeks to bring justice to women, injustice to women, Ending female genital mutilation is something that we as a church should do because it brings to an end those injustices that I have just mentioned. And the church is particularly interested in ensuring that life is enjoyed by all people in its fullness. Apart from FGM being a mandate of the church should also be involved in the practice of FGM because of the history of change in Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, the church has been involved in changing certain issues, social issues. We have been involved in awareness raising, and we have seen a lot of success on it. Reference can be drawn even from the just concluded rebel war in Sierra Leone. It was the religious bodies where the church also played a very key role that helped to bring an end to the rebel war. And apart from that, also in recent time, we went through the Ebola, we are also going through the coronavirus, and the church has been involved in eradication of this or ending these health issues. And so with that kind of experience, I'm sure the church should be involved because we have that kind of history that we have gone through to bring end to social issues in our community. And apart from that, also we should be involved in eradicating FGM because we are God's representative on earth. We are ambassadors. We are stewards of God's creation. And it is obvious, as many of us know, FGM undermines God's creation because it alters God's perfect creation of the genital organs. And so we as a church, we should ensure that what God has created perfect should be protected at all times. We should also be involved in the practice of FGM because of the myths surrounding the practice. People who practice FGM, support FGM, believe that certain genital organs are created impure, and so they should be removed. And these are all myths. For example, they believe certain organs they do itch, and also they produce offensive odors, and so all of those organs should be removed. These are all myths, and so as a church we have a responsibility to go back and educate our people so that they will have a clear understanding of what God's creation is, while our genital organs were created and their functions, and the reason why we should not alter them, because these are all God's perfect creation.
Okay, then. Thank you very much for that explanation with regards to the message that you have for other leaders who might be interested in the advocacy. And I think you brought in a very important issue. Yes, Sierra Leone has faced many challenges in the past, from the war to Ebola and now the pandemic. And the country has been very resilient. And I think if everybody comes together in addressing and advocating against FGM, I'm sure we will have one day community or a country that is FGM free. So maybe my next question then would be, what message do you have for other religious leaders who might be interested in advocating against FGM, especially since you mentioned the backlash and the rejection that you sometimes get, even though now it's changing, the fear, the demons, as you mentioned in our other talk. So what message do you have for them? Thank you.
I am aware that the campaign of FGM is caring to many of my colleague pastors and other religious leaders. I just want to encourage them. I have experienced that one, but I was able to overcome the fear in me. And so I am calling on pastors and religious leaders to join the campaign against FGM, because religious leaders, as I have already mentioned, we are stakeholders. That's a message we should carry home. We are caretakers of God's creation, and so we should ensure that anything that undermines God's creation, we should stand against it and advocate for its eradication. And secondly, as religious leaders, we should be inspired by the nature of children. We should keep in mind that children are God's gift to mankind. So if they are God's gift, we should ensure that they are protected. And this is exactly what Jesus did when he came to serve humanity on earth. He protected children, and he also encouraged his disciples to do the same. As a religious leader also, a third message I can give you is for you to discover that FGM is strongly controlled by a kind of belief. I can say it is strongly controlled or perpetrated because of ignorance. And so we as a church or as religious leaders, we have a responsibility to explain, to help our congregation to understand the true nature of the human body and also the nature or effect of FGM. I think we should denounce the myth that FGM is controlled by demons, because there are many countries that practice FGM that are not associated with demons. And fourthly, as religious leaders, we should believe that FGM is an issue we should advocate on. We have no option. It is our responsibility. We have to take action now. The church should take a lead, because we have done it in the past. We have succeeded in ending harmful practices, including throwing away of twins, ending slavery, and many other social injustices. So today, if we are confronted with the issue of FGM, we must be inspired by the successes we have made in the past. We should try to eradicate the fear that demons control FGM. And if it is so, we should believe that greater is he that is in us than the one in the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much again, Reverend Moses. I think this being our last question for this segment, for this series, I think you left at a high note there, where you are encouraging other religious leaders to take part in the eradication of FGM, because yes, the church is very central in the community, in our families. So they have a duty to be part of the sensitization and advocating against FGM. So this is the second last series. So we will continue with our last series, which will be looking at FGM and male engagement, but we're going to have another speaker that will be joining you, Reverend Moses, which I will announce in our next video, but it's someone who has been also actively involved in FGM and who is also part of a bigger group that is advocating against FGM in Sierra Leone. So that would be our last segment. So thank you very much. I think the message is clear that we all have duties to take part in this fight. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time. As you were mentioning, that we have to demolish myths. We have to fight all these myths, all this misinformation, the intimidation that comes with FGM if you don't agree to undergo. But we believe, as you have already mentioned, that we can overcome. We have overcome other traditional practices before. So thank you very much. We're going to continue with our next series. Thank you.